Change feels hard, mainly because our brains are wired to choose the familiar over the unknown. But once we're in a new environment, finding routines, building rhythms, getting oriented, the fear often fades and we ask ourselves, why didn't I do this sooner? The challenge for project managers isn't necessarily crushing resistance, it's designing change that works with human nature. Today we'll touch on some practical communication strategies and readiness tools to make transformation feel predictable and safe, so teams focus on progress, not survival. This approach acknowledges reality. It builds common ground through shared experience and builds confidence through taking action. The essence of soul-preserving change leadership. People move from fear to neutrality a lot of the time via confusion, frustration, and a variety of other complicated emotions when they understand what's changing, what's not, and how they'll be supported. Clarity reduces perceived risk. When we communicate changes to different groups in a project, we try to use a bridge that shows how the new is a little bit like the old. In neuroscience, this is a way to help the brain map the unknown onto existing known patterns and routines. It applies both to how you communicate and how you take action. I've got an example of this from a recent project. Data was migrated from an old system to a new one. In these situations, there's always the possibility of reviewing how products are structured, what the creation process looks like, and so on. The product team in this particular business decided to keep their existing product naming convention and structure in order to make the new system feel more like what we already have. They did the same with their existing reports. The new ERP provider created specific reports that mirrored their previous reports. Giving them this level of consistency of the known made the transition to the new system easier for those who were reading the results and running the business. So there's a possible hint out of that. Design the messaging and the process to keep some familiar things. There are always things that don't change when we make a system or process improvement, so make sure that that's included in your communication. It's an easy one to miss. We use these 4 guiding beats to remind us. The questions are, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What stays the same? And how will we offer support? When I say support, I mean things like how and who to ask questions of, how to log problems, how to access training or suggest further improvements. Including these elements up front shows people that you know the change is not done until they actually adopt it. Build coalitions. Persuasion always beats polarization. Framing change as a shared project that needs diverse allies. Avoid writing people off. Invite people to the middle ground and encourage them to participate. You can use analogies and shared values to ground your message in things that the team already understand, and then widen the circle. Start with the common ground, then layer in new practices. For example, we had a recent change to reporting that impacted a significant group of stakeholders for a client. Let a large number of stakeholders know about the change. The communication started by referencing previous conversations about building deeper partnerships and better understanding of each other's businesses. And it oriented the supplier audience, which is an external audience, in the bigger picture context before going into the detail of what would change. So when you're communicating change or when you're preparing to communicate change, it's a great idea to map your stakeholders and find the common ground or shared understanding that you already have with the group. Think about whether people are champions, skeptics, or undecided, and craft messages for each group. This takes a bit more thought and effort up front, but it definitely improves adoption in the longer term. I've also found that it can improve your implementation process, because if you think about the things that the skeptics are going to say, then you're prepared for what's happening there. I often use a grid worksheet to work out the different groups and figure out the timing and the approach. I inherited this worksheet from a colleague many years ago, and if you'd like a copy of it, the link is in the show notes. Taking small steps as a team Teams become change capable by mutual accountability, clear goals, and accumulating small wins that build confidence and commitment. You can help your team by figuring out for them what the next small step is. As a project manager, you can see the whole path ahead, I hope. But if they are unfamiliar with the project process, they will often need smaller tasks and side-by-side support that shows, not just tells, them how. Making adoption visible, track the behaviours or the achievements or the timelines and celebrate the progress or reinforce the new norms. For example, in some projects where we've had large teams to bring along for the ride, we've given people like homework, a small next step that moves them towards the new. Another tactic we've used successfully are accountability or learning buddies. So through the user testing process, this can be really effective. It shares the load in the team, and I've often found that people feel more comfortable learning together with a peer. Two heads are better than one. They find ways to solve problems together and to help each other. One person remembers one part, another person remembers the other thing. Together, they find ways to make sense and create a new path through a new system. So adding maybe 1 or 2 metrics to your project report, the number of users performing the new behaviour, for example, or one small win that celebrates the team, can really elevate what they're doing. Change sticks when it has some elements of the familiar, shared and achievable. Designing communication and project plans that reduce the risk, build coalitions around common ground, and stack small wins so that teams change their minds and then their habits. If you found this helpful, please share with a leader who's building a coalition for change. I'll see you next time.